It can feel incredibly confusing, even painful when someone gets close to you, shares real moments of connection, and then suddenly starts ignoring you. One moment, everything feels natural. Conversations flow, there's comfort, maybe even a sense of emotional safety building between you. You start to feel like something meaningful is developing. But then, without warning, they begin to pull away. Replies get slower, energy changes, and eventually it can feel like you're being shut out completely. If you're dealing with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, this shift is rarely random. It's deeply connected to how they experience closeness and emotional intimacy on the inside. Avoidants are usually very comfortable when things are light, casual, and emotionally low risk. They can be charming, engaging, and even surprisingly open in the beginning because there's no pressure yet. At that stage, the connection doesn't feel threatening. It feels optional, controlled, and safe. But as things start to deepen, something begins to change internally. What feels like a natural progression to you can start to feel overwhelming to them. Emotional closeness, instead of feeling comforting, can trigger a subtle sense of danger. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because closeness challenges the emotional defenses they've built over time. For many avoidants, independence isn't just a preference, it's a form of emotional safety. So when they start feeling attached, even in a healthy way, a part of them may interpret it as losing control. They may begin to feel like they're becoming too dependent, too involved, or too emotionally exposed. This is where the shift begins. As those feelings grow, their mind starts looking for ways to reduce the intensity. It might not be a conscious thought like, I should ignore this person. Instead, it's more subtle and automatic. They may suddenly feel the urge to create space, to slow things down, to step back before things go too far. Ignoring messages, becoming less responsive, or acting distant are all ways they try to regulate that internal discomfort. From the outside, it can feel cold or confusing, but from their perspective, it's often about self protection, not rejection. Another important layer to this is vulnerability. When avoidants open up, even a little, it can feel like a big deal internally. They might share something personal, express a genuine emotion, or allow themselves to be seen in a way they're not used to. In the moment, it might feel okay, even good. But afterward, the overthinking starts. They may replay the conversation in their mind again and again. Did I say too much? Did I show too much emotion? What if they expect more from me now? These thoughts can quickly turn a moment of connection into a source of anxiety. Instead of leaning further into the bond, they begin to retreat. Silence becomes a way to regain control. Distance becomes a way to feel safe again. Avoidants also tend to associate closeness with expectations, even if those expectations haven't been clearly expressed. The moment a connection starts to feel real, they may start imagining future pressure. They might think about commitment, emotional responsibility, or the need to consistently show up in ways they're not used to. Even if you haven't asked for anything, they may feel like something will be expected soon. And that anticipation alone can feel overwhelming. So instead of moving forward, they pause or they disappear. Ignoring you becomes a way to delay that perceived pressure. It gives them space to breathe, think, and emotionally reset. It allows them to return to a state where they feel more independent and less overwhelmed. At the same time, this behavior doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. In fact, the opposite can often be true. The closer they feel to you, the more intense their internal reaction can become. That intensity is exactly what triggers the withdrawal. This is what makes the situation so confusing and emotionally draining. Their actions don't seem to match the connection you felt. It can leave you questioning everything: what changed, what you did wrong, or whether the connection was ever real. But in many cases, the distance isn't about you at all. It's about their relationship with closeness, vulnerability, and emotional safety. And until they learn how to manage those feelings in a healthier way, this push and pull pattern can keep repeating, no matter how strong the connection actually is. Another important reason avoidants ignore you after getting close is because of emotional regulation. For them, distance isn't just about avoiding you, it's about calming their internal state. When feelings start to grow, their mind and body can go into a kind of overload. What feels like a natural emotional bond to you can feel intense, unfamiliar, and even stressful to them. Avoidants are not used to sitting with strong emotions for long periods, especially emotions that involve closeness, attachment, or vulnerability. So instead of processing those feelings with you, they instinctively try to process them alone. They don't usually say, I'm overwhelmed, or I need some time to think. Instead, they create that space silently. Ignoring you becomes their way of slowing everything down. It gives them time to think, to breathe, and to return to a state where they feel more in control of themselves. From your side, it can feel sudden and confusing, like they switched off emotionally without warning. But internally, they are often trying to make sense of what just happened between you. This is why their behavior can feel so inconsistent. One day they're present, engaged, maybe even affectionate. They're replying quickly, asking questions, and showing genuine interest. Then suddenly there's a shift. Messages become short, delayed, or stop completely. It can feel like you did something wrong, but in many cases, the change is happening entirely inside them. Another deep reason behind this is their fear of dependency. Avoidants often develop a strong belief that they should rely only on themselves. Depending on others, emotionally or otherwise, can feel unsafe or uncomfortable. So, when they start to feel connected to you, a part of them may interpret that as becoming dependent. Even if the connection is healthy, their mind can turn it into something risky. They might start thinking, what if I start needing this person? Or, what if I lose my independence? These thoughts don't always come in a clear or logical way. Sometimes it's just a feeling, a quiet discomfort that pushes them to step back. To protect that sense of independence, they create distance. Ignoring you becomes a way to remind themselves that they are still in control, that they can step away whenever they need to. Avoidants also have a tendency to focus on flaws when things get too close. This is another unconscious defense mechanism. When emotional intimacy increases, their mind may start scanning for reasons why the connection might not work. Small things that didn't matter before can suddenly feel bigger. They might question your compatibility, your behavior, or even their own feelings. Thoughts like, maybe this isn't right, or something feels off can appear, even if nothing has actually changed. This mental shift helps them justify pulling away. It's not always that they truly believe those doubts, it's that focusing on them makes distance feel safer and more reasonable. At the same time, avoidants often assume expectations are rising, even when they aren't clearly expressed. A simple connection can start to feel like pressure. They may believe that now they are expected to text more, show more emotion, be more consistent, or move toward commitment. Even if you haven't asked for any of that, the idea alone can feel overwhelming. Instead of clarifying or communicating, they choose the easier path: avoidance. Silence feels less demanding than explaining feelings they don't fully understand. There's also a quiet emotional contradiction happening inside them. After pulling away, they don't always stop caring. In fact, many avoidants continue thinking about the person they distanced from. They might wonder what you're doing, reread old conversations, or feel a subtle sense of missing you, but even then, they hesitate to reach out. Part of them wants connection, while another part is still trying to maintain distance. This inner conflict can keep them stuck. So instead of coming back right away, they stay quiet longer than necessary. This creates a repeating cycle. They get close, feel something real, become overwhelmed, pull away, and then slowly start to feel the absence of that connection. Sometimes, after enough time has passed and the emotional intensity has settled, they return, often acting normal as if nothing happened. For the person experiencing this, it can feel like emotional whiplash. You go from closeness to confusion, from connection to silence without clear answers. It can make you question yourself, the connection, and even your own expectations. Understanding this pattern doesn't make it less painful, but it gives you clarity. Their silence isn't always about rejection. It's often about internal conflict, wanting closeness but not knowing how to handle it in a healthy way. And unless they become aware of these patterns and actively work through them, this behavior can repeat again and again, no matter how genuine the connection may be. Another reason avoidants ignore you after getting close is that they often fear emotional dependency. When they begin to feel attached, even in a healthy way, their mind can interpret that attachment as a loss of freedom. The closer they get, the more they worry that they will become dependent on you, or that you will become dependent on them. This fear can feel overwhelming, even if the relationship is stable and mutual. Because of this, they pull back. Ignoring you becomes a method to reassure themselves that they are still independent and in control. Like, it's not about you doing anything wrong, it's about their internal need to maintain emotional safety. Avoidants also often struggle with trust, even when there's no reason not to trust. Getting close to someone requires them to believe that the other person will stay, respect boundaries, and not demand too much. This can be difficult for them, especially if past experiences taught them that closeness leads to disappointment or rejection. When they feel uncertain, even slightly, they may respond by withdrawing. Silence allows them to observe the situation from a distance while keeping their emotions protected. It's a defensive mechanism to prevent potential hurt before it even happens. Another subtle reason they ignore you is that avoidants are often perfectionists about relationships. They may think, consciously or unconsciously, that they need to have everything figured out before they can fully engage. This includes their feelings, your expectations, and how the dynamic between you is evolving. Instead of dealing with the discomfort of uncertainty in the moment, they retreat. Ignoring you temporarily feels like a way to reset and regain clarity. Sometimes avoidants also pull back because they are overwhelmed by the intensity of their own feelings. They may feel affection, care, and even love, but these emotions can feel like pressure. Instead of expressing them, they step away to regulate themselves internally. Finally, avoidants often use silence as a way to test boundaries, not in a manipulative way, but to understand the relationship. They may wonder, how will this person respond if I take space? Or, will they be upset if I don't reach out? Their distance is a way to gauge the strength and stability of the connection without fully committing to emotional risk. Even though this behavior can feel confusing and painful, it's usually a reflection of their internal struggles rather than a lack of interest. The more you understand these patterns, the easier it becomes to see that their silence is about managing themselves, not rejecting you. The final reason avoidants ignore you after getting close is that they are often caught between desire and fear. On one hand, they genuinely want connection. They enjoy your presence, care about you, and may even feel attachment growing. On the other hand, closeness triggers fear of vulnerability, fear of dependency, and fear of losing their independence. This internal conflict can be intense and confusing, even for them. Because of this, ignoring you becomes a coping mechanism. It allows them to navigate the push and pull of their emotions without being overwhelmed. They step back to regain emotional balance, even if part of them wants to stay close. Avoidants may also struggle with expressing affection in a direct way. They often rely on actions rather than words or subtle gestures instead of overt expressions of love. When they feel the relationship deepening, they may withdraw instead of expressing their feelings openly. This withdrawal is often misinterpreted as disinterest, but it's usually a form of emotional self-protection. Another pattern is overthinking. After getting close, they replay interactions, analyze your words, and question their own behavior. They may worry they said too much, revealed too much, or will be judged. This mental loop can cause them to pull away temporarily to calm their thoughts before returning. Avoidants also often fear losing control over their emotions. Emotional intimacy makes them vulnerable, and vulnerability feels risky. Ignoring you gives them the space to feel safe while still maintaining some sense of control over their feelings. Despite their distance, many avoidants continue to care and think about you. The irony is that the closer they feel, the stronger the need to retreat can become. They may silently hope the connection continues while believing they need to step back. The key to understanding an avoidant is realizing that their ignoring isn't personal. It's a reflection of their inner struggle with closeness and emotional intensity. They often need time, patience, and safe space to process their feelings without feeling trapped or overwhelmed. Over time, if they learn to tolerate vulnerability and communicate their needs, this pattern of pulling away can change. They can build trust, maintain connection, and develop healthier ways to handle closeness without disappearing. Once you understand these patterns, their behavior starts to make sense. You can see the moments of distance not as rejection, but as a sign that they are navigating their fears and trying to manage a level of intimacy they are still learning to handle. This understanding allows both sides to grow. Avoidance can slowly learn to stay present, and their partners can navigate the relationship with more clarity and patience.